Today on The Hookup, we're going to take a look at a bunch of different kinds of spotlight cameras. So whether you've got an existing spotlight where you'd also like to have a camera, an existing camera where you'd like to have a spotlight, or a new location with or without existing power, stay tuned to see what you can expect from each installation type. Security lighting and security cameras are a pretty obvious combination. The only problem is that both of them are traditionally pretty difficult for end users to install. Until recently. Now there are options to suit almost every existing wiring situation and skill level. But as you'll see in this video, their performance varies significantly. The four cameras we're going to look at today are the $210 Ring Floodlight camera, which will replace a typical floodlight unit and must be attached to mains voltage, the $170 Camius 4K PoE Spotlight camera, which uses PoE or Power over Ethernet. Third is the brand new $59 Reolink Lumus, a Wi-Fi only camera with LED lighting powered by a 5-volt USB type connector meant to be plugged into a typical wall outlet using a 5-volt adapter. And last, if you don't have any existing wiring or connections, the approximately $110 EufyCam 2C is a completely wireless battery-powered camera with LED lighting that can provide a modest amount of light anywhere. I'll be evaluating these cameras in 5 different areas: ease of installation, quality and intensity of light, video quality, motion detection capabilities, and app integration and experience. For ease of installation, the biggest factors will be your existing equipment and your comfortability with dealing with mains AC power. The easiest installation by far is the EufyCam 2C that requires 0 wiring. Just pick your installation location, screw in the 2 mounting screws, and you're all set. The EufyCam 2C communicates with the Eufy Home Base Station 2, which is helpful if you want to mount your camera somewhere where you don't have excellent Wi-Fi coverage, because you can just place your home base in an intermediate location to extend your Wi-Fi range. The Reolink Lumus uses a 5-volt USB connection, which means you'll need a nearby power source. The included cable is only 3 meters long, so you'll need to have an outlet close by. You can use a USB extension cable to increase the length, but while the camera itself is waterproof, the extension cord and DC power adapter may not be. If you have an existing network cable in your installation location, you could use a PoE to 5-volt adapter to power the Lumus, but at that point, the next camera is probably a better option. The Camius 4K PoE Spotlight camera uses 48-volt active PoE, so you'll need a PoE switch or NVR. But assuming you've already got an Ethernet drop in that location, wiring it couldn't be any more simple. You just plug in the Ethernet cable. The most advanced install is the Ring Floodlight, which requires mains AC power and should either be installed by a licensed electrician or a homeowner who's comfortable dealing with mains voltage. If you're just replacing an existing light, the installation process is not particularly difficult. Once you've switched off the breaker and tested the wires to ensure that they're not live, you'll just connect black to black, white to white, and ground to ground. If you're not in the US, the wire colors will be different. And if you open up the electrical box and find that your wires don't match this configuration, you're going to need to do your own research or call an electrician. I didn't find the installation process to be particularly difficult, but if you've never wired a light or a switch, it may feel different for you. Next, let's talk about light output. For this test, I set my camera to manual and I kept all the settings the same to show how each spotlight is able to illuminate an area. And I measured their lux output in a dark room from 3 meters away using a lux meter. The EufyCam 2C really isn't meant to be a spotlight, but instead it's supposed to provide enough light to get a color night vision effect. As expected from a battery-powered device, the EufyCam 2C provided only 8 lux of intensity, which is similar to the light output from your phone's flashlight. The next lowest light output came from the Reolink Lumus, which generated only 40 lux, which is still 5 times more than the EufyCam, but hardly a spotlight. In my dark side yard, the Lumus provided enough light for me to find my way around, but not enough to be a task light. Next was the Camius 4K PoE Spotlight that output an impressive 210 lux and did a pretty decent job illuminating my side yard. I would say that the Camius provided enough light to comfortably walk through the area without being so bright that it would disturb the neighbors. For me, this is the perfect solution for my side yard. But last, as you could probably have guessed by looking at the size of the unit, the Ring Floodlight provided the most light by far, producing over 1,000 lux. That's 5 times greater than the Camius and over 100 times more than the EufyCam. Not only was the amount of light significant, but the spread was also very good and the color temperature was nice and warm. I don't think I'd be comfortable installing this light in my side yard knowing that it would be shining into my neighbor's windows, but it certainly provided enough light for any task and is the ideal light if you're trying to light up a large area. Next up was video quality, where I tested 3 different scenarios: Daytime, infrared night vision, and spotlight quality, or what's sometimes called color night vision. For these tests, I marked out positions on my driveway at 10 feet, 25 feet, and 50 feet, and held up a sign that had 72-point font and 150-point font. But before we get into that, let's talk for a second about field of view. As field of view gets wider, each pixel needs to represent a larger area in the physical world. So all things considered, we would expect cameras with equal resolution to have less clarity and quality as their field of view increases. The Ring camera advertises a massive 140 degrees of horizontal field of view, and I believe it. The EufyCam and Reolink have nearly equal field of views, even though Eufy advertises 135 degrees and Reolink only 100. In actuality, I think it's probably somewhere in the middle of those two claims. The Camius had the lowest field of view despite its 2.8mm lens, which is still considered to be pretty wide angle in the security camera world. In the daytime video test, the lower field of view and much higher resolution made the Camius the clear winner. But some of the other cameras produced very good results as well. In all conditions, the Reolink camera produced a very HDR, or high dynamic range image, where the highlights are very bright and the shadows are very dark. This resulted in more apparent clarity than the EufyCam, which also performed well, and significantly better than the Ring, which I found to be generally washed out in all conditions. At 25 feet, the Camius produced an impressively legible image of the 72-point font, and even at 50 feet, the 150-point font can be read relatively easily. At night, with only IR illumination, the Camius PoE camera performed extremely well again, but the Reolink also did a surprisingly good job. The Reolink's high dynamic range highlighted objects really well, especially when compared to the Ring that washed out all the images completely. The EufyCam did pretty well too, up to about 30 feet, where the lower amount of illumination prevented it from providing a clear image. The most interesting video quality test was the color night vision test, with the spotlights on. Since we know that the Ring produced around 1000 lux compared to the Reolink's 40, we would have expected the video quality on the Ring to be significantly better and brighter. But what the Reolink lacks in light intensity, it makes up in sensor sensitivity. And it actually produced a really awesome image. You can really tell how dialed up the sensor is when looking at my neighbor's porch lights, which appear to be very bright in the Reolink video, but are almost invisible on the Ring. The Camius camera still produced the best image, followed again by the Reolink. The Ring camera did a really poor job conserving any details on my body, and the EufyCam did the worst, probably because it was working with the least amount of light. You can see that the ambient light from my neighbor's porch lights casts a huge shadow in the EufyCam image due to the fact that it has a really low light output. For motion detection, all these cameras have PIR motion detection, which is typically more accurate than standard contrast-based motion detection. The cameras all support specific motion zones and sensitivity adjustments. The EufyCam, Ring, and Camius also have person detection, which really helps to avoid false positives and is quickly becoming a must-have feature for me. The Camius has additional motion detection options including perimeter intrusion, line crossing, stationary object detection, facial detection, and cross-counting, but they can only be used to trigger the internal recording on the SD card. And since most people are going to be using this in conjunction with their own NVR, their usefulness is slightly limited. I was particularly impressed by the Ring Floodlight's motion detection, which was able to detect pedestrians walking down the street while not being fooled by blowing leaves or moving shadows whenever I had the person-only notifications turned on. And the last thing to talk about with these cameras is the app and integration experience. If you're using these cameras as a standalone system, the Ring, EufyCam, and Reolink offer really great app experiences. The EufyCam 2C is completely free to access your recorded footage since they're stored locally on the Eufy home base. The Reolink Lumus requires the installation of an SD card for free storage, and in order to enable recording on your Ring camera, you'll need to pay an additional $2.99 a month per device. The Camius 4K PoE Spotlight has an app called RX CamView, which I have to admit is the best performing generic camera app I've ever used, but it still isn't as good as the dedicated apps from Eufy, Reolink, and Ring. Still, RX CamView does allow for live view and easy playback sorted by motion event type, as long as you've installed an SD card in the camera itself. If you're planning on integrating these cameras with your existing smart home or security products, you're going to have a little bit more difficulty. For Home Assistant users, the Ring camera can be integrated via the UI in order to add a sensor for motion detection, a camera entity that plays the last recorded clip from the Ring cloud, and most importantly, in this case, a light entity that allows you to switch the spotlights on and off. Unfortunately, it is the only floodlight out of these cameras that can be controlled remotely. The Ring, Eufy, and Reolink cameras have Amazon Echo skills to be able to view them on your Echo Show or Fire TV devices, but the skills only add a camera and have no control over the spotlight. EufyCam has recently updated their software to allow their cameras to be included in HomeKit, but still no spotlight control there. The Camius camera is the only one that provides an RTSP stream, which is very unfortunate since given a little bit of know-how, RTSP allows your video stream to be available wherever you want it, including Home Assistant, Echo devices, and your NVR of choice, which happens to be Blue Iris for me. So, to recap, all these cameras are fundamentally different from each other and useful in their own ways. The EufyCam C has a very low light output and should not be used as a spotlight, but it offers a decent color night vision experience, especially from 30 feet or less. It should get approximately half a year of battery life and can be installed almost anywhere with very little effort. Eufy doesn't charge for video storage, and the Homebase 2 gives you local recording with less reliance on the cloud. The Reolink Lumus is definitely the budget option at just $59. I found the light output to be sufficient for walking through my side yard or a small patio, but I wouldn't recommend it to light up your whole yard. The video quality on the Reolink is exceptional for such a cheap camera, and both the infrared night vision and color night vision were some of the best I tested. In the future, I'd like to see this camera get RTSP and some sort of AI person detection, but for now, those features are absent. The Camius camera is my standout favorite, and aside from being able to turn the spotlight on and off via some curl command, it has every feature I could ask for. Power over Ethernet, 4K resolution, excellent night vision, a powerful LED spotlight, great color contrast and white balance, AI features like facial detection, and of course, a fully ONVIF compatible RTSP stream. I haven't reviewed a ton of 4K cameras, but its quality seems top notch. And coming up in April, I'll be doing a 4K PoE camera showdown, which will include the Camius. So make sure you're subscribed if you're interested to see how well it's going to perform versus other non-spotlight 4K cameras. The Ring Floodlight is by far the best light option, and I did like the wide-angle lens and the impressive AI person detection. I love that the Home Assistant integration allows the floodlights and siren to be turned on remotely, but I'm not thrilled that they have to use the cloud to do so. As was the case with the Ring video doorbell that I recently reviewed, Ring's development resources and market foothold are evident when using their products, as they work impressively well. I really don't like the $2.99 per month per device subscription, and I wish there were some local control options. But it's impossible to deny how well everything just works. If you're still not sure what camera is right for you, leave a comment down below or come join us on the Facebook group. Thank you to all my awesome patrons over at Patreon for continuing to support my channel. If you're interested in supporting my channel, please check out the links down in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching The Hookup.